Welcome back, our dear viewers. I've got Sam Tate back in the saddle with me, and we are excited to bring you the commentary for this next round of the Top 32 Day 2 of the first ever Pro Hero National Tournament. We've got a very exciting one lined up for you guys. We have Keenan Meadows coming back onto the stream for the second time this weekend, alongside Mr. Barrett Bryant himself, also on his second stream appearance, in a very, very fierce matchup of Water Asui versus Chaos Tokoyami. It's Crow and Frog Takedown.
Yeah, it's a Crow and Frog takedown format with the Crow and Frog takedown characters. It's going to be really interesting to see, right? We talked a lot throughout set 2 and even in set 1 about how these characters kind of play relatively the same game,
right,
but in different ways. One removes the card specifically, one kind of it's just okay with keeping them there, right? Yep. But the main thing is progressive difficulty, that's a myth.
Nope, does not exist for these guys. The Crow and the Frog are both going to dance around their card pools beautifully, dance around some of the mechanics of this game, and it's going to be very exciting. This is, of course, we go into our top 8 round, top 16 being our last round, that being the real nail biter, right? All of these guys, obviously, for our Worlds tournament. So they have a little bit less to sweat this go around, but it's still going to be a very, very cutthroat set of games. On one side of the bracket, we've got a beautiful mirror match. Clinton and Tim both piloting Giro decks.
And then we have Deshaun Fulbright and Kevin Broberg. That's a Kirishima 2 versus a Momo, which has historically been very bad for the Kirishimas in the past. However, if you look at our Kirishima mirror, Christopher Smith versus Travis Tangeman, Travis Tangeman overcame a Momo deck earlier on in this bracket.
He did. In his previous round, he took down Jacob Johnson, who was on Momo, specifically a Momo deck that Jacob Johnson said he had handcrafted specifically to beat Momo. So it seems that might be a matchup that Kirishima, with his new Heroes Clash support, has actually overcame.
And then finally rounding it out, the feature match we're going to have for you, Keenan Meadows on that Water Asui, who I'm calling the bandit of this tournament. He got away with one on stream is now pushing his way, punched that ticket to Worlds in this top 8 versus Barrett Bryant on the Chaos Tokoyami, the adaptation symbol, the new symbol for Tokoyami in Heroes Clash.
Yeah, it's going to be the flow of water versus the manic nature of chaos. There's going to be a lot of things flying back and forth in this matchup. It's going to be very, very, very intense. I'm not sure. They both got their characters committed, so I'm not sure who's got the top seed here. It looks like they went in for the handshake, into the bro fist, into the awkward double handshake. Both very, very, very swell guys. Some stand-up gentlemen about to try and turn to the life out of each other.
Yeah, I got to say, as much as what's on the line here, you know, those top 4 promos, right? Those free SRs that we talked about, you know, those full art SRs. At the same time, if you lose here, you can't feel too bad, right?
Yeah, you're going to Worlds, baby. You're going all expenses paid to freaking Worlds, man.
You're getting a free vacation in Vegas, if you want to think of it that way. Yeah. Doing what you love the most, which is playing the My Hero Academia card game.
If he hits this last one, oh my God.
We were holding our breath there for a minute. Imagine if he had played 1 on 6 and checked the 6. We would have popped out.
That would have been absolutely crazy, man. Yeah, a really, really gorgeous build by Barrett. Keenan's going to have to look to stabilize really hard here and then hope that Barrett does not draw 7 attacks, to be honest.
Mildly disrespectful, I'll say. Just a teensy bit because we only have 2 cards in our hand, and even on 3 foundations, Asui can present that much damage. However, she would have to be fighting through -1 on everything once Tokoyami commits, so probably not the safest play. And Keenan doesn't have any problems that we've seen in the past taking a measured approach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Keenan's super duper fine stabilizing here. He's got his good defensive pieces on board. It's just going to be a matter of like how nuts of a hand can Barrett find. And it's looking pretty good so far. We've got a Crow and Frog. We've got a Twisting Azure. Doesn't look like we got much. I think we have 2 Crow and Frogs and a Twisting Azure.
We're going in.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a good place to start, right? We talked about this yesterday. The more we see Tokoyami play, regardless of how the rest of your turn is going to go, you slam down Crow and Frog, right? You just slam it down. As this no investment, very, very, very large pokes. We're going to look for our Summon Dark Shadow. Not finding it in the top 5, but finding it right at the bottom. I really like the fluidity of that pickup there.
Well, you know, it's that early review. I've talked to a lot of people about it. It's one of the best. I think Tokoyami is one of the best going second characters, specifically because you can keep a Summon Dark Shadow and review it. And if your rival attacks you on their turn too, they know that they're giving you a Summon Dark Shadow for your next turn.
This is true. They're allowing you to set up. So right away, the irrefutable force of nature is going to come in, seal something very important.
Yeah, so Keenan activated his first, right, and chose to seal the Petty Squabble, which is going to allow Barrett to seal something else, but I think that might be the tail of this matchup. The Dueling Irrefutables, it's one of the most powerful control pieces. It's E-commit, so it's reusable every turn, and that's going to be the major skill expression if we go to the long game.
I agree. I also think that might have been I don't know, potentially a misplay on Keenan's part, because since we banked the check on the Crow and Frog, we get to commit that Irrefutable and then ready it back up to commit again on a future one. Whereas if we, as Keenan, had just gone to use our first enhance, commit my Irrefutable, seal your Irrefutable, right? We chose to go for the Petty Squabble, though, which I can understand, right? It's either we stop him from sealing multiple things for free, or we stop him from drawing more and more cards for free.
Yeah, potentially with Petty Squabble, Tokoyami has a great play with it, right? He doesn't really mind being committed once he uses that once per turn.
Right.
Maybe Keenan just really likes the cards in his hand and knows that if he gets those squabbled away, has to draw 2 fresh ones. Not only does Tokoyami get to basically get a free latent skill, which is what the fire symbol was relying on a lot, he also gets to, you know, target, commit down stuff that gets played. It's just a bad place to be if you like those cards in your hand.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, Keenan, knowing the cards in his hand, he knows the full value of his hand and whether or not the Petty Squabble is going to come in super huge. I also really like that we saw we saw Barrett hold back on the Dark Shadow on the Crow and Frog, because right now we don't have much of our minimal damage pump on board, right? We have our double easily excited, but that's for speed. We don't have any stronger in darknesses, right? So we needed to hold our summon Dark Shadow because we needed the Twisting Azure to see it get played to get that damage pump to make sure we can turn on our enhance to hack all of our opponent's checks and buff all of our own.
And potentially most frightening, we're still sitting on easily excited. Tokoyami has not had any troubles pumping damage onto things, making them massive, but the speed has always just been a little above average. It's been a little above par, +1 usually. But now with easily excited, we can just dump 2 onto 1 attack, possibly just push it through no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, that was like one of the most powerful aspects of like Sugar Rush in the Fire deck, right? Is that the speed, the damage was already like absolutely crazy daisy massive, but that random 2 speed on any move could really push it over the edge into easily unblockable ranges.
Yeah, Keenan trying to choose between being able to immediately clear the card pool and then ready, or having to ready first. Maybe trying to bait out potential aggression, but for the most part, we're really just hoping we have the right block zones, because these are going to ramp up really fast if Barrett has any more attacks in his hand. The Crone Frog coming in here and the speed coming in on a Crone Frog makes me think that we're trying to chip in early, get momentum for later, cash it out for a game-winning enhance on a future turn.
For sure. Also, like I love the way Barrett is layering this turn. First, holding the Dark Shadow to make sure the Twisting Azure Inferno sees it, and then holding the second Crow and Frog. Because normally, you see Crow and Frog, you play Crow and Frogs all at the beginning because they don't count, right? You don't play them later on in the string, but we can play it later on in the string because we have our +3 from our Summon Dark Shadow.
I think we peaked another Summon Dark Shadow in his hand too.
Oh, interesting. That makes a lot of sense. And so like it's really cool application there, because we get to kind of just dodge around any of the bad aspects of our checks, because we also don't have a ruin, right? So we're crafting this turn around Summon Dark Shadow actually counting towards progressive.
And luckily, you see there, we did check a 3 on a 4 diff, but we get +1.
Yep.
So it's actually a 4. And that's one of the big things about Azure Inferno. It's all your checks. It's not just checks to play attacks. So your builds are safer afterwards. Crone Frog makes it practically free.
Yep. Huge play here as well with that Crone Frog coming in at the end, letting us ready our character, meaning we get to pick up our Dark Shadow again on the defense here if Keenan decides to aggro into us. Combine with our other 1 card in hand, and we have triple Chivalrous Competitor, meaning if we really need to see cards, we can see cards.
If our opponent taps out to the point where drawing cards doesn't matter, that's free draw.
Yep. Barrett is in a very comfortable position right now. It's on Keenan to find a magical Christmas Land kill or further stabilize, and we're going to see him further stabilize with a build 3, hold 4. I mean, he's at 8 life. You know, we have to really respect the potential output. And I mean, you were talking about momentum coming in clutch. That giant ice wall in our hand is massive.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where Asui's usually not progressing the game plan at all until she's ready to go in. So it never looks good compared to a lot of decks, right? We usually talk about attacking is how you progress your board, say how you progress your plan. However, we've seen Keenan do it before. We've seen that tenacious defense. We've seen the, you know, the last ditch effort, if you will, come in, and so it's not over till it's over. Barrett will have to bring him 2-0 before we can count Keenan out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we're gonna see Barrett start to go in on the aggression here. I think all he's got right now is a Crow and Frog and an Ice Wall in his hand. The Ice Wall right there, and the Crow and Frog in the hand. So not a very, very potent offense, but of course we've got Triple Chivalrous Competitor and Petty Squabble to start going just start going in there and digging for cards. So I think we're gonna see Barrett go for a really, really big reach this turn.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out, we did get that first enhance irrefutable to seal the other irrefutable, right? We're just okay with trading this commit, this stun one for ourselves to protect all the rest of our foundations. That's that dueling irrefutable I was talking about. And, you know, we're at the point where with the next stun, if another stun is coming, we're going to really want to have another face down foundation committed, because Prone to Dry Eyes can ready 2 face downs, but right now we only have 1 committed.
Yep, and at the end of the day, between this, once this stun 4 in total sets in, it might really get down to the having the right zones and not necessarily the foundations that we have. So yeah, once we start running out of foundations to commit, the cards that we give Keenan just aren't going to matter. And we did activate Petty Squabble, and we did find ourselves a 1.3 million volts. So that's now a ticking time bomb that Barrett's got to play. Yeah, we're going to use our other shivers. Yeah, we're just trying to draw a million attacks. At the end of the day, if we find a million attacks right now, it doesn't matter what's in Keenan's hand. They're going to be unblockable eventually.
Can we talk about that Cannon Blast on top of his discard for a minute? Did we see that ever before?
I don't think we have.
We still got Spice in the tank.
Deck check, Keenan.
But really quick, we saw him flip a basic trading, right? That was purely to activate the Asui to pay the cost for no effect, because we saw the momentum get discarded. Keenan knows that another stun's coming. Got to be able to ready 2 foundations with Prone to Dry Eyes if we want to have any chance of surviving this turn.
Yeah, because as much foundations as we have, they're going to start running out eventually. Also, we've got the one with Nature on board as well, right? Which is just going to make a lot of the attacks super fast near the end. You know, you have to essentially be always ready to block like a quote-unquote 5 speed 1.3 when it comes to the one with Nature's stacked up on it. Having to commit 3 things here for this block is not fantastic. That is not where we want it to be after stopping the smallest move of the turn. We also found our Dark Shadow Ruin after all of our Chivalrous Competitors, so now things are just going to start getting really, really, really crazy. That was kind of the one piece we were missing so far through this whole turn, is the Dark Shadow Ruin as this default lethal move that says we get to take that one summon Dark Shadow right out of our progressive.
Yeah, you're about to see the resource game be translated purely into board state, have practically nothing to do with hand, right? In the last game, right, the most hype moments were seeing if Jose could draw the right card, if he could rip the right card with a new training method. Barrett said, you can have all the cards you want, brother. It will not matter.
Yeah, as long as we can craft that god hand as Tokoyami, it's just not going to matter that we gave our opponent 3 cards as well. I mean, between Triple Chivalrous and Petty Squabble and Tokoyami itself, we looked through 12 cards this turn, Sam. We looked through 12 cards this turn.
And the most important thing is we have fuel for 1 with Nature.
Yep, that is the biggest thing. Doesn't matter that we're giving our opponent cards, because all of our attacks are just going to be so hard to block. And we found the second Summon Dark Shadow.
Ooh, on a 4? Oh.
With 15 points.
Okay, looks like we forgot to remove from progressive yet. We let us go back and take that one out.
Yeah, I assume it was called and he just didn't like show it
Maybe
off,
so,
right?
yeah. I mean, either or, I'm sure Keenan wouldn't care about that type of thing. Ooh, plus Ultra Block.
Okay, we've got the plus Ultra coming in. It looks like, did we flip the tape? I think that's a full block, right?
Yeah, we had to have flipped the tape there.
There we go. So we take nothing there. One of the big defense.
That's also very, again, showing the power of One with Nature, right? We plus Ultra Block, checked the 5, still had to commit 2 because it was actually on a 7. The power of even something so strong like plus Ultra does not work around One with Nature.
Yeah, if in set 1 you told me struggling with studies could pick up plus ultra, I would think you're practically immune on a symbol with tape.
Yeah.
I would think that you are indestructible. But with the addition of One with Nature from Heroes Clash, now it's not the tight-knit defensive piece that it used to be.
Nope, there are exceptions, right? There are going to be exceptions. And now the Frozen Slash is coming in here. And this is just going to be a devastating move. He shows him the 1.3. Keenan says, yep, you got it, man. I definitely can't stop that. I definitely can't stop that.
Overload.
And that,
Overload.
Absolutely
of stats.
overload. A super overkill, man. Very, very, very textbook clean game by Barrett there. Just putting out that super hardcore aggression really, really, really fast and early.
Building 6 on turn 1.
Building 6 on turn 1, yeah. Putting Keenan in a position where he could not aggro at all. Had to just keep building, and then he just kept falling more and more into that position, and then even building to the 10 best defensive pieces in his deck. That was not enough of a stage to stop Barrett from dealing the amount of damage that he needed to take down game 1. Especially going second too, right?
Yeah.
Right, going second. Barrett went second that game and still came out ahead in that super aggro blowout, right?
He's the best going second character. He genuinely is, in my opinion, because if you commit him to pass checks to build, it's not that bad. You activate your -1 on everything. Some characters have difficulty overcoming that, right? You can negate the +1 from those One with Natures even. And on top of that, if you review Summon Dark Shadow, you don't feel that bad because you're going to get it back. Being an 8-hander going second feels really good. So it's not the obviously you still want to go first, but it's not the worst thing ever to go second as Tokoyami.
Yeah, kind of just attests to the power of the character, right? Is that he's so much stronger than anyone else going first and second.
Right.
and second. He doesn't mind either way. Either way, he's better than if you were taking this turn.
Yeah, looks like both players are citing exactly 5 cards here. Both have pulled 5 out.
Interesting.
And I'm just trying to think what would be things that you cite into this matchup, because I'm thinking maybe more irrefutables if I'm Barrett, if I'm not maxed out, because it's a water deck. Every card is a target. Not necessarily the case on Keenan's side, right? We don't always have fire cards in here. We don't always have earth cards as well, so maybe not everything's a target.
Yeah, potentially more copies of Prone to Dry Eyes. I mean, we lost that game primarily because we got stunned out so hard. Still one of the biggest weaknesses of the water symbol. Prone to Dry Eyes helps us protect against that a little bit if we can start getting some face downs going, which as the character Asui, we get face downs going pretty fast.
Another really powerful defensive piece that Water has access to that might be replacing plus ultras might be Recovery Time. That card is so sick. It's one of my favorites. When you block with Recovery Time, it's a +1 mid, and it has Breaker 1 on it. But probably the most relevant thing in this matchup is you don't have to block an attack. You can take 5 damage and respond with it only on a 2 to heal 4 of it.
Yeah, so it's a very powerful card.
On a lot of these attacks are going to be massive, so it'll act like a partial block, right? It'll act almost like a Kirishima style response around something. But if you're not going to be able to block anyway, it's got to be at least an option for your deck.
Yeah, especially when once they start piling on stuff like One with Nature and committing a lot of resources, the easily excited towards making it so fast and so unblockable, you get to quote unquote half block it for free.
Now, this is maybe not the right play, but you could get baited into this. If Barrett activates Petty Squabble and you have it in your hand, do you try to draw 2 cards extra off of it?
Yeah, that's also a really, really cool application of the card. Yeah, if I don't need it to survive that turn, definitely am down to discard 2, draw 3.
Yeah, I imagine you would only discard it if you A, had to, or B, you're on offense.
Right.
Because again, on defense, realistically, we're not blocking, so I think we really need that response. But at the same time, right, we get to have cards like Struggling with Studies. So if we can reduce speed early, block mid with tape and things like we saw with Ice Storm, and then pick it up with Struggling later, get that response later once it's too late to block and we're stunned out, that could be a really powerful play with this card as well. So pretty much every part of this card is relevant. It's just going to be whether or not the rest of the board state allows it to keep us alive.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really solid tech going on there on both ends. Clearly, since Keenan looks like he's still in the process of siding,
it's so tough.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about. Not only is it hard to figure out what 10 cards you're putting in your sideboard, hard to figure out too when you're going to go into them, right? I try to, every time I make a sideboard, right, I really try to construct a plan, right? Every card I try to have something in mind of when it's going to come in and why it's going to come in, and also what it's going to replace. But sometimes in the moment, you realize things, you understand things, the context and the texture of situations change a lot.
Yeah, it's is sideboarding, you have to take the same number of cards out of your deck that you want to put into your deck. So it's the same total number at the end of sideboarding, and you still have 10 cards in your sideboard. So you have to make some really tough decisions, because obviously all those cards you put in the deck you wanted there in the first place.
I hope so, anyway.
Finding those dead cards can be pretty tough.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you put bad cards in your decks, Sam Tate?
I'll say this. There's been a lot of events I've been to where people have said, I sided this out all day, every game. So theoretically, yeah, it was a bad card. It was the wrong choice. But when you built that deck for the event, you definitely had a reason in mind for it. It's just when presented with the matchups you had, obviously that card ended up being dead. But
yeah, it is okay to just be wrong sometimes.
Right.
That's what the experience is all about. Me, I just like bad cards.
I was about to say,
I just like bad cards.
I was about to say, but as far as bad cards go, I usually play very bad characters.
Yeah, I love me some bad cards, man. I love me some bad cards.
I get very focused on one really specific combo that's good.
Yeah.
And then all the cards that like make it possible are bad.
Yeah.
So like if they all come together, it looks good, right? The synergistic effects, but I've played Denki 1 at a lot of events, and
you have played Denki 1 at a lot of events.
you gotta run out some pretty bad cards to make that deck work sometimes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've casted some of your Denki games. Sam. They were very entertaining.
Oh yeah, we did have that one interview in Orlando where
Yeah,
I just talked for like half an hour about every single card in
Yeah,
the
it was
deck.
super fun. That's the best thing about the second you ask someone about their deck and then they like clearly have no intention of ever stop talking about their deck. That's when I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. I like where this is going.
I'm not gonna lie, I really miss Sports Festival Denki, but it's so risky without Slash.
Yeah. Unraven had to just go the way of the dodo, man. Those were a different era. It was a different era. It was a very, very different time.
Yep, Keen just getting a quick little pile shuffle to count the deck, then putting some mass shuffling in. Yeah, really funny conversation actually over with Keenan yesterday about pile shuffling. He was starting to shuffle, and his opponent was like, it's not a real shuffle, right? Because with pile shuffling, for any of those that don't know, pile shuffling is not sufficient randomization. And there's a lot of documents, there's a lot of things you can see on YouTube that kind of go over it, much better than we can on this stream. And so if you're in a tournament environment, make sure your opponent is actually riffling, actually shuffling that deck at least 6 times, because just piling is good for like counting and sorting and things like that. Make sure you have the right number of cards, but it's not sufficient randomization.
Yeah, no, I personally pile shuffle between every single game I play, but obviously like with actual shuffling afterwards.
Right.
But people who pile shuffle and just go straight to it are madmen. Very, very prospect.
We see Barrett's got 2 Summon Dark Shadows. He's going to send one back for the review.
He sure does.
For the mulligan, but then we're going to get to review that one. That's that power play where for sure I'll get to add that extra card to my hand. And like, if you try to poke Tokoyami and he picks up a Summon Dark Shadow, the likelihood he'll have 2 Summon Dark Shadows on his next turn to attack you with is greatly increased.
Yep.
And very few characters, very few decks can survive like 3 attacks and 2 Summon Dark Shadows.
Yeah, I mean, that's when Tokoyami enters like a whole other league, right? Is when he starts getting those multiple action cards into his pool.
Breaker stops mattering completely.
Absolutely. Your breaker is literally irrelevant. The stats are all benign. I mean, you have +2/+2 on all your moves. You're instantly Ochako 2, but better. Like 2 speed on all your moves is like worth an entire character, right?
There's the bro fist. Barrett says, I'm taking this game, brother.
Oh, yeah. Oh, bro, he's not worried about it.
That's a I'm 2-0ing you fist bump.
Oh, it is. I felt it. I felt it in the air. There's that Summon Dark Shadow review.
This is the new mulligan rule coming into play, right? Keenan only gets 1 mulligan.
Yeah.
Only builds 3 both games. Is probably going to get double built out on, the second game in a row, right? You built 3 and Barrett built 6.
Yep. And then as Barrett, we have triple zeros once more. Quad zeros. We have quad zeros because we have a million busted quad zeros.
You see Keenan look at him and say, "Really, brother? You got it again."
That's how I feel too, man. That's how I feel too. And he checked zeros as well, man. Like, oh my goodness.
The chaos symbol just has
power
a million
of the heroes
zero
in the
diffs.
chaos symbol, man. Yeah, no, absolutely.
A million playable 0 diffs.
Yep. There's our other Summon Dark Shadow now in rotation. Very, very, very scary prospect here, man.
Yeah, it's not looking super great for Keenan at this moment. Eats the breaker.
Yep, you're going to say, hey, look, you checked a little bad on that first one. I'm going to super punish you for it now.
Didn't choose to ready the Asui immediately, right? We don't want to start flipping stuff so quickly, but
I think we want to keep our gotcha around because we're gonna get stunned out all day.
Yeah.
At least this one doesn't count towards progressive.
Yeah, and it's unlikely that Keenan was just going to pog off on him, although Asui absolutely can. Ballsy play there. I like it a lot.
Yeah, if we checked for the one there, that would have been super spooky. But
Maybe he was planning to go in with this hand.
Given that we built our rescue afterwards, it looks like those are probably the only foundations we had. We could be holding 4 attacks in our hand right now.
Then again, knowing that he has that Summon Dark Shadow, you're going to have to be presenting.
You're going to have to deal with
early.
2 Summon Dark Shadows. Yeah, I mean that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying before, right? Yeah, I mean double stronger, Summon Dark Shadow, one with nature. I mean there's a context of 20 damage here, right? We have double rescue completed, but we've only got 5 foundations, right? Like we're gonna run out eventually.
Right, and any stun that comes in after this Crone Frog is going to greatly diminish the value of those rescue completed. Right, and he's got it. There's the Summon Dark Shadow.
The way that a very Jiro being a very simillar hyper aggro super fast deck. When she starts seeing those specialized sound waves and gets the momentum for them, that's when things start feeling really unfair. I feel similar about Tokoyami when he starts seeing multiple Summon Dark Shadows. Right, that's when the guy gets super scary. So
this is killer.
Yeah, it's a really bad check. These checks are hurting.
We didn't reduce the speed on this at all. We were really open to just bink
the check
a 5, because if you commit 1 to reduce the speed and then pass it, it's the same as if you just checked a 5 and commit 1 to pass it. Right.
So there's no reason we shouldn't have done it.
Potentially, if this is a 4 speed with a +2 block, there is a potential he's running a buddy block.
Maybe, yeah.
Keenan has done it in the past, right? When he was playing Kamu, he had Asui as the buddy block.
Right.
And so there's a potential to check a 6, not a great one.
It's also scary that we didn't win with nature, that first move.
Yeah.
That's scary.
I feel like if we do give it the -2 speed, he turns around and does the one with nature, and then we tap something for nothing, was going to be the next thing I said, where it's like, if we start getting into a war where we're committing foundations and not getting anything out of it, we're basically conceding. We're basically just scooping. And the other thing that's basically just scooping is allowing our rival to play this Dark Shadow Ruin when we've already high blocked a much less threatening attack. Crone Frog, you don't want to just eat them, but it's not the one to block.
No, absolutely not. I mean, most of the time, Crone Frog, there's very few worlds where that weapon actually gets interacted with. But man, this is getting super scary. Once the second Summon Dark Shadow comes in, we've got the Heat Wave at hand too. So like big, massive damage moves. We can potentially, we could probably block this after we double rescue, right? Like there's a world where this Ruin can definitely be blocked. After that, though,
well, we stunned one of them, so we're only gonna get to activate one. Really interesting to commit the. Right, really interesting to commit the prone to dry eyes when we know that stun attacks are prevalent in the deck, and we know we're never going to get to activate more than 1 rescue complete into them. But we only had 1 face down, right? So the sequencing is just all over the place.
And I think this Heat Wave's just game. Actually just game. Just lightning fast, there's a world where we committed a foundation for rescue on the first one. We didn't commit our prone to dry eyes, so we would have gotten to block 2 more moves. But at the end of the day, I think maybe the emotions might have just been getting to Keenan right there. The emotions might have just been getting to Keenan. Tokoyami can be a very, very frustrating play experience sometimes, having to deal with a lot of the things the character can do.
Well, so a big part of that matchup has to be the new mulligan, right? It's the fact that Keenan only opened 3 foundations, then only built 2 foundations. So in a world where Asui gets to build 5 turn 1, build 4 turn 2, we feel much safer, right?
Yep.
In a world where we have relevant flips early on, so that prone to dry eyes is activated early, so much more competitive of a match. But sometimes you're just not going to get the openers that you want.
Nope. You're not going to reach that game state because Tokoyami is here, and you should fear him.
And again, look at all those zeros, and they're all stats. They're all numbers. They're all adding exactly to the game plan that you want. And watching Barrett not activate that Summon Dark Shadow immediately, not go in with it on the first attack every time.
I love the way he strung that first attack turn together in game 1. Was amazing.
Yes.
Game 2, it's kind of just a matter of, well, my opponent's got 5 foundations. I've got 5 attacks. It's time I'm just going to put them all on the table and blitz my way through. But you know what? Maybe he had a different thought process. So I think we should go get the old Barrett Bryant, bring him on, and see what he's got to say about that very, very intense matchup. Stay tuned, guys.
Hey there, everybody. We've got your winner from that top 8 round, Barrett Bryant on the Chaos Tokoyami. Congratulations. Run me through it there. When you sat down across from Keenan Meadows and you knew he was playing the Water Asui, what was going through your mind?
Well, the first thing that was going through my mind was the last time I had played against Keenan in a national setting, he 2-0'd me real quick. Keenan has been playing this game for, I want to say, like upwards of over 10 years for sure, and very cool guy, Atlanta boy. Shout outs to Atlanta. I actually grew up in Atlanta, so like when I like go and visit, like
So you knew his secrets?
No, I don't know his secrets. No, absolutely not. Some of my nemesis in all of universes, people like Dave Wagner are also Atlanta boys, so I have tons of respect for the Atlanta region and what they bring to the table, and of course playing a deck like Asui, because Keenan is very methodical in the sense that like, but he also knows how to throw cards on the table. I think he just, I mean, in that specific matchup, I just don't think he really found the orange cards he was looking for to even attempt to backswing me. And like, that's kind of how it is. He built 3 both games, which is very devastating, of course. And me playing the Chaos symbol with so many 0 diffs, I kind of really took advantage of that. I mean, even in that second game where I just failed the last one, but I almost built 6 again on him.
Right.
So taking that advantage for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty much the tail of the tape, right? We talked a little bit on the stream about how if Keenan had gotten that build 5 early, if he had gotten to build more than just 2 foundations on turn 2, probably could have seen a more competitive matchup. But getting those early builds, talk to me about these 0 diffs, the Chaos symbol. How important is it to build 5 on turn 1?
It's for 5 I think is super incredible. That's not even necessarily the goal, I would say, every single time. It's the guaranteed build 4, I think, is the biggest one, and that's kind of what those 0 diffs are needed for, of course, because you can go a 3, a 2, a 1, and if you have a 0, you're guaranteed to build 4 first or second. And as you kind of saw, like, I didn't get to go first at all in that matchup, so I was just able to. I sculpted, drew in. I always reviewed a Summon Dark Shadow. Like, I got a little lucky on those opening hands for sure. Having the partial mulligan is very nice for me. But yeah, so I think those 0 diffs, although they don't have a lot of card text, things like Release are again, it's that like, yeah, this foundation is exclusively for defense and my aggro deck, right? But having things like Stronger in Darkness for the character, Easily Excited for extra on-demand speed for one thing, and then the basic training, that card actually came in a lot of clutch for me in my top 8 or top 16 match against David Pena. We went to deadlock actually almost 2 games, and that card came in a lot of it did a lot for the deck, specifically for the spammable speed, because my character already gives a ton of damage. I think it's just a perfect storm of what the 0 diffs do for this character. I don't think you could get away necessarily doing all those kind of things in other Chaos decks, but with Tokoyami specifically, they work out.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of these 0s come out even in the Chaos Midnights and stuff like that, but nobody's making better use of it than Tokoyami.
Right.
Talk to me about this going second, because for me personally, I feel great going second as Tokoyami.
Yeah.
And specifically the play of keeping Summon Dark Shadow to review
and review it. Absolutely. It's funny you say that, because I was 6th seed going in for tops, and so for the past 2 top rounds, I went first, and I have thrown game 1. I have lost game 1 both in top 32 and in top 16 because I went first. Because I went first, and I had to break serve twice, and then I just broke serve twice. I think I'm just really good at breaking serve. I'm not going to lie to you. Going second might be my strength, because I like to play a little more control-oriented. And then punishing my opponent for overextending. I think that's the kind of epitome of it, is when you go second, yes, they set the tempo for attacking, but as you kind of saw, like, I had the Ice Storm. I'm going to take half, but like, I'm side in those extra 2 Ice Storms every time. And so having the breaker mid blocks against the Earth decks, the Water Asui decks, like, you have to deal with her in some way. And that's how I think you get there, is have the selected partial, get a strong build, make them feel like they have to hit you, overextend a little bit more, and then you just kind of feed into the attacks. And that's what Tokoyami does. That's what he does best.
That punishment to be able to pick up that 8th card, the Summon Dark Shadow, bank it for next turn, the punishment from having an overload of breaker on the symbol once you get that siding in. I love the choices. Now tell me, do you think maybe you choose to go second going forward, or are you going to still ride it out going first?
I'm still going to ride it out, because I think that was kind of the biggest thing, was I lost game 1 and those other ones going first, and it's like, well, I get to try again, and I get to sideboard some new things, so I get to try again going first, and then I just have to believe in myself and think I'll make good decisions. to then break serve on the third game. That's kind of how that's what the story has been for me, at least.
Okay, so we're still not going to choose to go second.
No,
right?
no, absolutely not. Absolutely, because again, as you kind of saw, although I went second, like I built the One with Natures. I built that triple chivalrous turn, and it just fed all the cards. Like I One with Natures on everything, right? Like being able to do that, but going first is a little bit better, and sometimes, at least for this character.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you go first and have the Summon Dark Shadow, you can still review it into your second turn, right, to build and pick up. So
we've done that too. So.
Yeah. I got one more question for you. From Heroes Clash, Tokoyami got some great tools.
Absolutely.
Shifted the whole symbol. What's the best Heroes Clash card that came to the deck? Because there's a bunch of zeros. There's Twisting Azure Inferno. There's One with Nature. Is any of these cards the one best card that came out for him from set 3? Or are they all kind of similar?
I think so, and I think I'll sum it up in kind of ending on it. I want to say Petty Squabble, but I'm not going to say Petty Squabble.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I think Petty Squabble, although it's fantastic, it's the latent skill for the Chaos Symbol bird.
We did say that too.
Okay, okay. But actually, what I want to say is Chivalrous Competitor, actually, because
the flip protection.
It's the flip protection and destruction protection. I played against the Death Ochako 2 today, and I was in my head, I'm like, I have nothing to protect my board. And I go, Chivalrous says flip or destroy, flip instead. And it is the calling for backup under Chaos for how Fire has a calling for backup. And
you don't care if they have 8 cards in hand if they can't pass.
They can't pass anything. And I think it's the perfect storm for the Chaos cards that Dinky has on stunning your opponent's board out. You don't care how many cards they have in their hand. They got to tap them all. So I'm going to say that one, and I only say that because I talked about Petty Squabble a lot more in my last interview talking about it. So, but I would say the Quirk Pack Chivalrous Competitor for sure, I think is a good one. Low block too, can't go wrong with it.
Awesome.
But I would say, as a small thing, we don't have to dive in, I'm sure y'all talked about it, but the showcase for that match was for sure One with Nature.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome.
Well, for sure One with Nature.
Congratulations again.
Thanks
You've
so much.
punched your ticket to Worlds. You're going to continue to try and be the first ever Pro Hero National winner. Good luck with the rest of the tournament.
Thanks so much, Sam.
We're going to take a very quick break for you guys, and then we're going to come back to you for some top 4 action. Please don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss it. Things are only just getting started.
It's true. It's true.